Hi everyone, we are live. Let me check just the voice if it is working well. Let me know if you are hearing me. Let's see. Good. Everything is working. I'm so happy to be here today. I'm still excited, and I'm like feeling like this sensitivity, from the event of yesterday. And we will get the chance to close the circle later because we didn't close it yet yesterday. And I have an amazing guest with me today, Carmen. This is the first time we come together on YouTube and we meet actually like face to face. I'm so happy to have you here. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here as well with you and with our guests. And just there's so much this sort of bubbly. I mean, it feels like champagne in the air. So
Yeah, true. So let me introduce you, okay, let's introduce yourself to our audience. That will work better. We know you as the creator of the Pholarchos Tarot. An amazing and intriguing deck because it's related to dreams, and the depiction are not always easy to look at. So who are you? How come you have came to create this wonderful deck?
so I think probably the easiest way to start, because there's so many stories now related to the deck, into how it developed over time. But probably what was coming through before I even realized myself was that the land I come from, so I actually was born in Positano, which is in the south of Italy, and it is on the coast of what used to be a Greek colony, 500 BC. And along this coast, there was Parmenides and some other Greek, very important, Greek figures in our history. And it's also a place where just in front of Positano is an island called l'Isola dei Galli, which they say is where Ulysses met the sirens. So the kind of the Greek mythology is really compounded in the area. It's sort of the place is alive with it. So even though I did not know this as a child, I feel that somehow it was born in me or with me or something. And Parmenides in particular, there's so many stories about him, but one thing is that there was this statue of his, and they found the pedestal, and it said Pholarchos on it. And Peter Kingsley speaks of this word, which actually means Lord of the Lair, as an animal lair. And it's a mysterious word. They don't have many references to it, but he believes that it meant someone who would go into caves to incubate dreams for their community. So some teacher, healer figure, and there are beautiful, beautiful descriptions around this sort of figure and this practice, which of course, I mean, we're talking well before the dream temples, the Asclepions, which are littered around, the Mediterranean. So the actual dream temples where people would go to the temple to ask the god for healing, and they would dream in the temple amidst these writhing snakes.
Or they would ask the priest to dream for them and give them the information.
Yep.
We heard a lot of things about these temples, like there were
Absolutely.
water, there were specific crystals, and
Yes,
it's really
yes.
amazing. Yeah.
So generally they would do their own dreaming if they could, and then the priest as a figure would be the one to diagnose and give them advice for
the dream.
For the dream. And so, but before these very well documented temples, there are these caves, and I was doing quite a bit of research on that. And there's a book called Communing with the Gods. It was sort of anthropology of dreaming around the world. And he keeps mentioning caves around the world too, where people would go and incubate dreaming. And I thought, well, of course, I mean, what a natural thing to do. And therefore, these Pholarchos in my tradition, so, where of the land I come from, And sort of before that, they believed they were in what is today Turkey. And I had many dreams before knowing this when I was in that part of the world, where again this kept coming. So basically, this whole Pholarchos sort of feeling of the world and the caves and bringing dreams in, and today our beds being temples that we dream in every night. We never think about it that way, but really we're reconnecting every night to this vastness, that can also be amongst many other things, a healing
journey
tool,
or hidden dream.
healing journey, and yeah. So there's an Asclepion very near where I live in Rome, and I walk down there. It's where I go. It's my sort of sacred space. So when I was there once before actually starting the deck, I had a vision right up by there's a piece of the sculpture left of Asclepius and the snake. And, this, ancient Rome, there isn't even a sign up. But there's this, and people can go up and touch it. They graffitied on it once. I arrived once and it was full of black graffiti. I'm like, but it's just open to the element, and it's right on the river. It's right on the Tiber. So, the water is running past. And I had this vision with these priestess figures. And, in the Asclepions, as far as we know, it was all priests. They were males. So I'm not saying that this vision was of priestesses that were physically there at some point, but somehow, however you want to translate it, this vision came in, even though on that island they think that there were women in another part, women that were using herbs for healing, and and there was sage there in this vision. And so the high priestess in the deck is based on that vision. But that was what really sort of started the thing of just something that was trying to come through. And from there, slowly, all the threads, all the golden threads started to pull in. But it was a long process, and it was piece by piece. A lot of the time I was going blind, feeling things that were coming in, and slowly that became clearer.
The wonderful thing that I had in mind when I saw your oracle deck or your tarot deck, I do shamanic healing and I do shamanic practice, and when we journey, we say we dream. We go on a dream journey, or we go in a journey, and we have these visions. We see, depending on our ability, some will see, some will hear, will feel. I have multi-dimensional ways of seeing, but what I see sometimes so difficult to describe it with words. But through your deck, I feel like you are describing the scene. A series of, I call them shamanic, but it's a dream of dreams or beings you have encountered. The ability to having this ability to bring that vision into the physical world is, I feel it like magical. It's magical. It's I don't know, something magical about that. I don't know how you feel it when you are drawing.
Thank you. I'm really pleased you say that, because it's exactly what for years I was trying to chase. And I would be like, there's this thing and there's this, but I can't bring it in. And it really haunted me. So I really spent years where I just experimented with that, with finding ways of bringing it in. And I mean, from the beginnings, I would just put paint all over myself and get on the canvas. And I just experimented in every possible way. I mean, the people that live with me, I must admit, I have some very loving people that supported this process of me being this impossible, as you say, this kind of in a constantly altered state.
Yeah, wow, that's a journey.
And yet trying to bring it into the confines and the limits of this physical reality, which can be extremely frustrating,
Yes. And also, especially when you try to describe, remake the same thing. And I feel like maybe it's an impression I have, something like that, but I feel that you wanted to bring a feeling into your paintings, something like it is coming to the physical, but you wanted in a way to keep that magic or that vibration in it. I don't know if I'm mistaken.
No, that's absolutely very, very spot on. And that's why a lot of the images, you see all that color that looks more like energy configurations, and maybe a piece that is then quite realistic, just to remind the whole time that in fact that is only one part of one aspect of what we're actually living, what we see with our two eyes in our head, and what we can touch in this tangible waking consensus reality, if we want to call it that. Who knows if we all really see the same thing, but sort of pretty much. I mean, it is only one part, and I really care for in every image to have that be in the forefront, that reality that is actually multidimensional, as you say.
I have just saw Christine and Celeste saying I have so many questions. So go ahead. This is the perfect time to ask questions to Carmen. While we'll be waiting for your questions, Christine, I wanted to ask Carmen about the process of creation. You just said something quite funny, like they have been patient with me. How would you describe that process of creation? How did you leave it?
God, to me it is shamanic. You're speaking of, shamanism. I've done some shamanic work of, traditional shamanic work, and I see very little difference in a sense. Of course, the outer forms are different. There aren't necessarily the same rituals around it, but you go somewhere and you are absolutely on a journey. This is my experience of it. I think there are multiple ways of creating. I mean, as many probably as there are people, really, and more. I'm not even sure we create the same way as, one person might create in different ways, depending what is needing to be created and what's coming forth. But generally for me, I would say it is like being on a journey. I lose all sense of time and space, and whatever is coming in. I might start with something quite specific, but I'm absolutely open to whatever needs to happen. So I'll change it completely. And often that is what happens. And that's okay for me. I mean, luckily I'm not doing work that is too, naturalistic. Otherwise it could be an interesting result. But it's just a real surrender to whatever wants to come in, and for me often that happens through color, and that kind of leads the way. Often actually underneath a canvas, what you see on the surface is actually one last layer of many other layers that are underneath that are completely different. And generally the beginning, like, let me show you one moment. I have something close here. Right, just a moment. This, for example, is the first layer of something that I'm working on. Just it's easier to, wait a minute, let me see if I can. It's not much light, but see how it has all kinds of just colors mixing together. What you see at the end, there's not much light. Let's see if I can bring in some more light. There we go. That's a bit more light. What you will see at the end might not have hardly any of this visible anymore. But it's definitely there, and it definitely has its reasons and all manner of things that it brings with it. Feelings, intuitions, senses of presences, all kinds of things that then form into other layers and other layers and other layers. But I just trust where it's going.
That means trust is one of really the basic things you do when you start your drawings, or when you do them. And I noticed something. It's really like the style is really different between, like the suits, for example. See this card. It's totally different from, let's say, this card here.
Yes.
How come? Was it intentional? Did you want to give really informations about it? And I have the word alchemy that is coming to my ears.
Yes. I wanted to create different worlds, and for that to be visible when the cards are laid together, so that it's immediately apparent that we're dealing with different dimensions, different worlds, different realities, and how they're actually talking to each other. So again, because we're dealing with dreams, I mean, I think, all of reality deals with many different dimensions, but we tend to forget that.
Mm-hmm.
So as this deck is specifically dealing with the dream world, altered states, and let's say vaster concepts of ourselves, where we're going, what our soul is what I call soul requirements. So what our soul requirements are, what we're developing, or what Hillman might call the soul's code. So what we're developing through this life and through our wider journeys, creating different worlds keeps that always in the foreground.
This is interesting that you are talking about different dimensions, different words, but it's like, did you get that desire to bring us, or to have a large vision of life, or large vision of question? What was the motivation? I would say, just like, I feel there is something there.
Well, certainly that's what wanted to come through. I kept feeling pushed from behind, literally, to do this. And at first it seemed to me to be just such an enormous endeavor. And I put so much, years of research into it, really. So into, the Western esoteric tradition, and into the history of tarot, into mythology, into astrology, into all the various facets. So having to fix anything into a specific form just felt like I was somehow trying to reduce too much into. So I gave up several times, but it kept pushing at me. So then I said, okay, you know what? I will do this. I'm available. Hello, here. Okay, yeah. But you do it. As in, whatever is coming through, I will be vehicle, and show me what wants to come through. Of course, while I was doing that, because it's 78 cards and it does have a traditional structure, even though I've changed the certain names, but it's basically the same structure does go throughout. And for every single card, there is at least an echo of a traditional meaning that somehow is connected to it. It might then seem very different, but there is always, we could go through every card, and I could go through how it connects to the traditional cards. And obviously there are various, even the first tarot cards, of course, are different amongst themselves, the different decks, but, their tendencies. And so while I was doing that, because I had a structure, of course, I had to then fit that in. I had to use some, cognitive part of my brain, and I had to make certain decisions also to just keep the ship afloat, but within that, then I let things just take over as they needed to.
I've got so many questions here, and there's one comment here I wanted to point while we are talking about the miners. Christine's saying the miners look like a dream travel diary for her.
That's beautiful.
Yes, and they are asking about a book. If you were writing a book about this deck.
I am writing a book. It is going to take a while because, it's complex layers. I'm imagining probably about a year. I'm hoping that'll be about the time for it to.
And while we are waiting, I know that you have many workshops. We are actually preparing for a workshop for January about the DreamWork too. If you want to check that, I might put the link below. I got a question about the back of the cards. The back of the cards.
Yes.
Christine wants to know more about this.
Okay. Someone on a video said a lovely thing about it being the guide of the deck. Two rocks, I think. Tracy, yes. And I love that. And yes, to me, it is that. There are there are about 15 dreams in that one image. Now, not all the cards are my dreams. It's not about sometimes my dreams come into it, but it's more about the act of dreaming and what that can be. So it opens into the dream world and into the dreaming rather than, it's not, However, in this card, there are several of my own dreams that have been put together in this figure that is actually a larger painting. She has wings spread open. She is connecting earth and sky. Mm-hmm. So she's in a way, she's a cross formation, right? Because you've got the wings and you've got the horizontal, so you've got the vertical axis and the horizontal axis. You've got the Kundalini snake rising up the center through the heart, so the open heart, and it's going all the way up through into her third eye, which it's very small here, so it's hard to see, but it's actually her forehead is open, and all the white dots are in fact the cosmos. So the entire cosmos is inside her third eye. So, we contain everything. So it's a reminder really of the whole alignment and a kind of matrix that includes, she has lynx ears. So she, the animal world, the sky, the earth, the heart is center, and the stars.
This is wonderful. I feel like we can spend a whole night just talking about each card and its meaning. I have had another question also about the Tower card. Let me look for it so that I know that you know what I'm talking about. But I need to find her. An amazing painting too. Where is it? Oh, this one. So this is the Tower, and we want to know. We just got questions about it. Told you we're gonna spend.
What would you like to know?
So, what does it mean for you? Because I know that we can put many layers, many meanings on it, but for you, what does it mean?
I mean, again, even just for me personally, it means something different every time. And what we were talking about before about the act of creation, in some ways, the act of creation is this, as far as I'm concerned, right? So just being split in two by whatever the forces are that are coming through. But
for today,
here.
For today, the meaning for today.
For today, well, the complete revolution of the self. Everything you thought you were, the being that you were, is suddenly opened and expanded enormously. Hopefully, when your body comes together again, it finds its bits, and they're all there. They are. I'm joking, of course, because one has to joke on serious matters otherwise.
Sure.
But yeah, a real profound awakening of some sort, which of course can be painful. Mm-hmm. But how far will you allow it to go? And I suppose, in psychological terms, you could always speak of also, for that to be able to happen, you need to have that body or that container, shall we say, strong enough to allow that to happen. Otherwise, you really won't be put back together. So that's very important too. When is the timing for something? Mm. And cards, I think, are very, it's very important. They do speak of timing as well. Not everything is available or mature to happen at any given moment. It has to be the right timing.
This is really wonderful what you're saying, and I just got, as you know, maybe you don't know, but we have an intuitive talk in this channel. Sometimes we get some things like that, but we were talking about this ability to channel and to let that light come in through you, and even if you were not sure about it, it's like light is getting through you, and you are acting in a different way than what you have done before. And And what I love in this image is that the light is coming to the earth, and there is this green and manifesting. And I feel that this deck was creation through a process like that. I have no idea why I'm
That's
getting
very
this.
beautiful. Yeah. Well, yes.
Hmm.
Beautiful. Beautifully put.
Beautiful deck. Beautiful deck. I wanted also to ask you about DreamWork. You know, we talk about dream. What is it exactly? How did you come to that? And what are your teachings? Because I know that you teach that, and you have really a wonderful, I would say, not profession, but your life is rich. You know, you make paintings, you make workshops, you have done many things. And what is the place of DreamWork in your life, and how? How did you come to that, and what are you teaching about?
So I've always had very strong dreams, and as a child I remember being quite afraid of them and just putting them well out of vision. I remember, some of my first dreams and my reactions to them, and it took me a long time to come back to them. But then when I did, when I was probably in theater school, because I have a whole other life, from quite a long time ago where I was in the theater, and dreams were coming in fast and furious. And I would write some of them down. Unfortunately, not all of them. And I regret that now, especially since a lot of them were precognitive, and a lot of them dealt with people who had passed. So there are a lot of, again, a lot of dreams to do with other dimensions. And but at the time, I couldn't quite. I had no context in which to put all of this, right? And theater school was intense enough as it was. So I let a lot of them go, but I started to notice them much more. And then, over time, they just took more and more space. So for probably, I guess 20 years now, I have been keeping a really detailed dream diary. So I have, books and books and books. And that in itself is I would say, the main thing. The moment you start to pay attention to your dreams, take them seriously, all kinds of things start to open up, and it can lead you as to where it wants to go. By that, I don't mean that dreams are simple to understand, or that that's the end of it. You write them down and then you're done. No, of course not. But that kind of commitment to them starts to open up a dialogue with the unconscious, and with the what I like to call the great mysteries, or the great invisibles. And so from there, I developed in various different directions, because of course I'm also extremely curious, extremely mercurial, and part of what I like to do is discovering different maps and different patterns and syncretic systems, putting them together, seeing what the essence of several different systems is. So what is really true to that system, what is actually people's conditions in that moment, the culture, blah, 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 all the various things. But what is essential to that system? And then if it's true in several different systems, I like to see that and bring out those condensations, those essences and those distillations, and really focus on those. So I work with many different styles of dream work, and I still am. I have a certification with Scott Sparrow. I've done a lot of work with the International Association for the Study and Research of Dreams, the IASD. Many wonderful teachers there. Endless books. I'm working with in Jungian and post-Jungian studies at the moment in Ireland, so there's an enormous amount of dream work there. And all of this, I could go on and on, but it just becomes, lists of names, and isn't so interesting. But what I am trying to do is bring all that together into, again, new ways of working with the cards, of course, because that's what interests me. So I'm exploring how those can work together. And that's what the workshops are about at the moment.
This is interesting. So you want to explore the dreams using the tarot deck. And I got this question from Christine. How did the idea come to make a tarot deck out of the dreams and paintings? And she's asking if you were a tarot reader before. So that's why you got this idea.
What came first? Tarot has always been there in a way. My birth was predicted by the cards, so it's always somehow been there, but it's another one of those things that I had to rediscover again much later for many reasons. But was I working first with dreams or with tarot? I would say probably with both for about the same amount of time, but I was for a very long time keeping them on two parallel lines instead of bringing them together. So trying to, get in depth with both, and then suddenly thinking, oh, wait a minute, no, this is, and also because my dream life is just such a central part, it pervades everything. So of course, it would come into the into the cards.
This is wonderful. I'm having so much great comments here. I don't know if you are seeing them. Maybe you can see them later on the video. But
no, I'm not seeing them. No.
And for example, I got Christine. She's saying, "I wish I could have dreams like on the Dreamer of Wings card." She's asking other questions, and then some are saying, "Yes, we want to know the meaning of every card." And Jennifer is saying, I feel all that mercurial curiosity as well. So I got another question from Moon Priestess Lucy, and let me just read it. She's saying she adores the deck, absolutely in love with it. And she would like to know if there was a different process when creating the major arcana than the aces. So did you feel the same? Is it the same process? Did you feel the same way when you were creating the majors, the aces, court cards, and so on?
Well, it's different, partly because, entering a different world, and partly because of the materials, in the majors, there's so much paint. And just the fact of using that much color and working first from the color and then into the figures is a completely different state of mind. And what it brings up is completely different to working first from a drawing. So the minors tend to be sketches that then have a little bit of color. And I'd like to say, so the aces, yes. I then made black and white for the deck, but they're actually in full color. So they would be a closer process to the majors. Because if you work first with color or you work first with line, it just something about that in itself will make you feel completely different and bring in different things. And so the minors then move up. They have, the twos have a tiny bit of color. It's the 3 a bit more, the 4 more, until the 10. There's a crescendo of color, but there's still a lot less color than and they're on paper. So, I've kept that very much, a much more day-to-day sort of the idea. Some people said to me, but these look unfinished. I'm like, no, that is the point. As in, there are moments that are fleeting. It's like a detail that might happen to you on that day. It's a moment. I don't want them to look like fixed experiences. They're a moment in a conversation or a moment in a dance that is actually already in movement as it's happening. So I want them to look fleeting because it's supposed to be just experience as you're moving through it.
This is interesting. Jennifer is saying the difference in the processes is like a metaphor for the difference between majors and minors.
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
I'm looking also at some, I don't know if you do readings or just you work with the tarot deck in a process of dream work, but there are so many different, for example, the moon, we are seeing so much different things in the card that it gives so much possibilities to interpretation. Is that something you wanted to put in the deck, or it came naturally? Because we feel like there are so many things and sometimes strange things at the same card, but it's rich. We feel it is rich.
Yeah.
So yeah, how come you got all this
Well,
in the same card?
it's not so much a conscious decision, but it's very much what needs to be on each card, as in there are probably at least 30 images that I fully finished and then threw away because they just weren't the right, and they're perfectly fine as images, but they just weren't the right thing. And, you know, to me, they're very much alive. The Pholarchos, like the Pholarchos are coming in and they're saying, yes, this one, yes, this is it, and this one, no. So and sometimes I try to negotiate. I'm like, come on, you know, but I've worked so much on this, you know, like, out, oh, sorry. So, having said that, of course, I mean, I've lost my train of thought. So I'm not consciously deciding, I want this and this and this in the card, but I do, of course, then check that I find it can somehow fit. You know, I do put them through a quality check as well, just in case. You know, you need various filters, obviously, especially when you're putting something like this out there that is supposed to be a whole system, right? But what I do want to say about that is that, one, if you're talking about dreams are very, very tend to be packed full of symbol, and decoding is more than just, so these aren't, you know, traditional cards would tend to have more, maybe one symbol, things focus around one symbol. Dreams tend to have a lot more in there. And what I would say about that is that when you're using them in a reading, part of why I like that is that you can't just get into the habit of using either, even if you're doing it for yourself or if you're reading for someone else. I know it's more complex, but you can't get into habitual meanings that you're used to, because each time there's a whole picture, and you really have to look at the picture and see in that moment intuitively what is speaking to you. Of course, you have the traditional meanings there to hand, you know them, and yet since you have that, it's like having, you know, the mythological connections. When you focus on a dream, you don't bring them all in, but they're there. You know they're there. But then you look at the actual image and see what is speaking to you in that moment, and it might be just the one detail.
Mm-hmm.
So they are pictorial. It is important. That's why the tiny booklet isn't. It's kind of like Zen koans, to keep you in that space of working with that, I want to say magic realm, but, you know, the world that isn't the set. You know, we know the set meanings. You can always bring them in, but it's going beyond that into what's, you know, being in that altered state, really, what wants to come in that moment. Yeah.
And this is so beautiful what you are saying, and it speaks so much to me because I'm really an intuitive reader. But I just got some comments and details, and they were talking about the commitment that you had to create this deck. I mean, you needed really to be motivated.
I mean, yeah. My partner says it was a journey to the underworld, and I kept praying that you would actually come back from it. And I had to, at some point, kind of try to fish you out of there, you know, it's sort of. And I mean, it's funny, but there is some truth in that. You know, you go that far into the unconscious, you got to, you know, you got to make sure you've got your threads back, you know, and some solid things that anchor you. It is true.
So did you came back from your journey changed? And if yes, what did change?
Just about what didn't change? I mean, you know, just about everything. And to be honest with you, I'm still, I'll probably always be coming to terms with the new layers it's bringing up, you know. And I think life does that to us anyway, if we're, you know, if we pay attention. But certainly if you're on top of that ritualistically doing that day in, day out, you're really put to the test. So there's discovery all the time. I mean, I never thought I'd be doing this, really, even just be right here, right now, speaking with you, about cards and dreams. I mean, to my 20-year-old self, her jaw would now be on the ground. It's sort of like, so.
Yeah. Well, this is something interesting also that you're talking about, the change and looking at your deck, and someone was talking about timing. Some of us didn't see your deck before. I know that, that this printing is pretty recent, but why do you think that your deck is so much important at the moment, and that people are getting that thread of, curiosity towards it at the moment, here and now?
It's a great question. I ask that sometimes too. I say, Pholarchos. What I can say is that the day after actually finishing the deck, officially finishing it and sending it all to the printers, and I had this extraordinary dream that night where this burgundy bird, tiny little bird, like the color of your lipstick, which is rather unusual for a bird, very beautiful, but very sort of striking, tiny little bird. It's like something I've never, very dissimilar to any kind of bird I've ever seen, flutters into this group of people that I'm with and throws this tiny egg into the palm of my hand. It's an egg, except it looks like a jewel because it's a metallic, dark blue, shiny. And it could almost be like a seed as well, but a jewel at the same time, and an egg, which alchemically, holds everything. It holds the whole of life, really, in the beginnings and stuff. And boom, right into the palm of my hand. And this is the night after finishing the deck. And it was just, there was an extraordinary numinous feeling around it. But it was like I was being told it somehow, I don't know, I'd done something that from the soul's point of view, I suppose, needed to be done, and that it was being seeded.
Wonderful. This is beautiful. And I think it's for each of us to know why, by asking the question to the deck. So grab your decks and ask this question, why, and this is one of the questions we ask when we study a tarot deck in 21 days. And I'm patient to do this with your tarot deck. Why did this tarot deck came to my life now? And just ask that question to the tarot. He will give you the answer for you, for your condition.
And if I may add to that, just as you're speaking, I'm thinking, interesting if you ask that to the deck, see what the deck says, and also then pay attention to, because those Pholarchos are an echo of the dreaming and your own inner council of Pholarchos, So then also pay attention to what you dream in those evenings when you ask that question.
Wonderful. I got another question from Christine. She's saying that you are a dream shaman. She gave me this. And she asked if you would have some spreads in your future book, like dream spreads, trying to find this question. But I know that in January we will have a workshop with you. I think it's the 20th of January. I will put the link below, just to make sure.
I think 19th, maybe?
19th. Christine, you are here. I know that you have the link to my website. I would be really happy if you grab that link for us. And you will introduce a spread for us to work with the DreamWork. So I know if you are interested, Okay, I found the link. Let me put it here. If you are interested by that workshop, you can subscribe. The places will be limited because, Carmen, I know that you wanted to spend time with each one of us to really go deep. And you will get a discount also if you order the deck. So if you order the deck, you'll have a discount to the workshop. So I don't know if you wanted to add something about that for the book, if you are going to put some spreads and DreamWork in it.
I will put the spread that we'll be working with. Probably a few other spreads. I'm not sure yet. I'll have to see about that. But mainly, this is a spread that I would like to focus on, at least for now, because it's gone through several stages of development, and I feel that at the moment it's in its most helpful form as far as dream work. Of course, you can work on dreams with cards and in many, many ways. But I'd like to focus on this one for now.
Mm-hmm. And it's a big one because it would be a really strong workshop. I can assure.
Well, that's the thing, I want to try to go deep with it rather than necessarily
the quantity of
get too many. Well, because the thing is, dream work can be so confusing. So if you already adding cards is another enormous layer on top of it. You're dealing with a symbolic system with another symbolic system. So, and I think that can be very helpful, but it can also be confusing. So I don't want to get too many elements, involved.
Mm-hmm. I understand about that. One other question sometimes I ask is, as a creator of tarot deck, what would be the advice you would give to a tarot oracle creator? I am an oracle creator myself, and I would love to have some advice. So what would be the advice for a creator like you?
Well, I must say, when I started, I really was very naive about it. I jumped in at the deep end and discovered so many things very late in the day, and kind of thought, you always find a way of resolving them. But if you can shortcut some of those things, of course, it's helpful. As far as the creative process, I think, of course, everyone's process is different. And if you're going to do something like that, you need to go as deeply as possible into your own creative process. I mean, there's so many extraordinary decks out there. So, why would you want to if you weren't going deeply into something that you felt something new that needed to come out. So I won't talk so much about that because that seems self-evident. But as far as the technical side of doing it, which for me was very difficult, really silly things like know the size of your cards before you start making the images. I mean, you're going to get half your images cut off otherwise, or and it seems silly, but you always think, oh, I'll deal with that later. And, just the fact that they're standard sizes, if you're going to change the standard sizes to something that is really individual, you might end up spending an enormous amount of money to do that. So think about it carefully before, really find out what's available and what's, I know it sounds really, but those are things that I never thought about.
That's so true.
Of course, it doesn't mean that your images have to be made the same size as long as there's the same proportion, of course. But for someone who's not good at math like me, that's not so evident anyway. But and also there's some wonderful, like Arnell Ando, who is a woman extraordinaire who really, she helped me publish and edit the deck and do the design. I mean, she was extraordinary. All, the box and all the way it's all the way it's all designed is her doing. And she has on her website some extraordinary articles that are very helpful about, creating decks, publishing, self-publishing. Therefore, you really because I would say it is the technical side that people get stuck on. If you're going to do something as crazy as making a deck, you have a strong enough reason to. So I'd say just go for it, as far as the creative side. But prepare yourself if you can.
So true. Some people are asking me about technical things, by the way, about the course, how long it will be, 2 hours, 3 hours, 1 hour. And I
The
think,
workshop.
yes. So usually the workshops, they are around 2 hours, but sometimes they are more. I would say most of the time they are more, but it's around 2 hours. And you can order the oracle deck, the tarot deck. What am I? Are you creating an oracle deck? Why am I keeping saying oracle deck? One of your next future, no, future.
I haven't been thinking about it, but if you keep insisting on that, I might start to dream about the oracle deck. No.
Yes, and let me know for tomorrow if you get your answer tonight. We would love to have an oracle deck. And about the if you can order them separately, I would advise that you order the tarot deck before, because when you order it, I will give you the discount. As soon as you have the discount, you can order the workshop. If you don't want to wait, it's all right. I mean, you can order it now, because the places are limited, of course, because we want it to be really personal. Yes, and Tarot Map, she's here and she's saying, do an oracle deck. Yes, we will for it.
Hi.
All right, so I think we will bring our beautiful discussion to an end by asking you a question, and you can give me just one word or two maximum for each question. Would you?
Okay.
All right.
That is absolutely fine. Can I just, before you ask a question, just while it's on my mind, I just wanted to sottolineare, now it's coming to me in Italian, I'm getting languages mixed up. Anyway, I wanted to highlight the fact that if you do the workshop, you don't necessarily have to use the Pholarchos Tarot in the workshop to work, because we'll all be working on our dreams in situ during the workshop, right? And then we'll be working on that together as well. So you need to have a dream with you, at least one dream, possibly one that you don't mind discussing. But you don't necessarily have to share. So that's, what the work you do with it. And, you have to have a deck to hand. It doesn't necessarily have to be the Pholarchos, just also so that you can see that, in fact, you can use any deck to work with dreams. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yes, really important. Yes, that's true. All right, so let's start with our questions. And for viewers, if you have any other questions, please add them, because it is the time. So, what is the latest book you have read?
Oh, I'm reading so many books all together, but one book I've read really recently, which I found astonishing, was Circe, Madeline Miller, about the goddess Circe. Maybe, I'm not even sure it's pronounced in English, maybe Circe?
Maybe I have no idea.
Madeline Miller, she also, again, it's Greek mythology, but revisited in a modern, incredibly poetic voice. It's her second book. She wrote the Song of Achilles as well, but it's a real cry from the heart.
Circe. Yes.
Circe.
Thank you, Tar Apple. Okay. That was more than one word, but it's fine.
Oh, one word I forgot. No, one word's hard for me. Okay.
I'm just kidding.
No, as an exercise, I'm going to really try to do this. Go on. One word.
Do you use other tarot and oracle decks? If yes, what would be one of your favorites?
The Mythic Tarot, Juliet Shulman Burke and Liz Greene.
Okay. What is magic for you?
The heart of life. The heart of life.
What is your intention or a word you would say for 2020?
Goodness. One word. Mystery.
Wonderful. Okay, I will stop for now. Okay, you can breathe.
Wow.
All right, so I was really delighted to have you today, and I want to take this opportunity to close our circle, the circle that we have started yesterday for the event 2020, the mystery. So I would like to thank all of you who have participated. I'm seeing Tarot Map, Kasia, Christine and Celeste, and many others who have participated yesterday and today. And we are more having 2 videos, bonuses that are coming up. And some people contacted me from South America to do other videos regarding 2020 in Spanish. Please do. It's open. YouTube is open till January, I hope, for everyone who wants to share about 2020 and any things, any tools you have. So maybe just bringing all these beautiful energies together and thinking the different directions, and our dream shaman that she's here. We are honored to have her too in this circle. Thinking our spirit allies, our ancestors, Mother Earth, all the gods and goddesses, including Circe that came just later on. And even if we don't know her, or we don't know all the gods and goddesses and all the spirit allies, we acknowledge their presence and their support. And we wish they support us for 2020 to dive into the mysteries while keeping our soul enlightened. Thank you all for being here, and I wish to meet you for another video, another theme, another questions. I'm open to your suggestions, your questions, your invitations, whatever come to you. I'm open to that. Thank you, Carmen.
Thank you so much. What a beautiful closing note. Thank you.
You all.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.